Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is Tony Kanya switching to my radio voice. And today I have with me Art Harrison, the co-founder and chief growth officer at Daylight. Art, thank you for being here with me today. How's it going?
It's going well. I really appreciate you having me today. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Awesome. So I spent all day trying to get my studio ready so that it looks like I have a ton of daylights just for you guys.
I appreciate it.
And number two, so if I'm not mistaken, you're in Toronto, Canada.
I am.
So
yes.
Doesn't that mean that like past like Halloween, maybe even before Halloween, you just get no daylight ever until like May?
We still get daylight. It's just going to be below freezing with daylight in those months.
So it's like Iowa.
It's not like the Arctic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's honestly a lot like New York City. Usually about the same weather that New York City is going to get.
Well, yeah, you're not far.
Yeah. New York exactly. So then, now today is rainy and gray, but that's not a good example.
Okay. But by the way, in case this particular episode attracts more Canadian listeners than normal, listeners, I have spoken at 70 different insurance conferences, and I have visited almost every US state with a few exceptions, but I have visited 75 countries. I have never visited Canada. So if any of the listeners has an insurance conference in Canada for which you need a fantastic speaker, especially if you want me to talk about millennials in insurance, message me. You are going to get a sweetheart deal because I have never been to Canada and I want to go and I want to have a good excuse to go. It can be Toronto, it can be Vancouver, Quebec.
Montreal might be good.
Montréal, je parle un petit français. I can't give my whole presentation in French, no way. But I speak enough to at least not get lost on the way to hotel. So Art, we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Daylight?
Sure. It's one of those things. I'm still 6 years in working on my pitch. And I think that's just the nature of doing something so big that it's always been hard to contain, but I'll do my best for you today. At our core, our mission at Daylight is to improve all of the interactions between people and process. And what that really means and what our real pitch is that we help organizations build digital experiences in front of the business processes, the rules, the interactions that they have either for their employees or their customers, so that anyone can interact with their services, make changes to their account, do whatever they want in an easy, intuitive way. And just, it's not the pitch, but I like to make sure that whenever I'm having a conversation with someone like yourself or with a carrier, whoever it is, they really understand what that means. So I'm going to give you the easiest analogy that I've been using for the last couple of years. There's two that I've used on and off, and one's insurance, one's tax. But I'll tell you the tax one first, and that is, you're in the US, the IRS has a business process. All of their forms, they want you to file your taxes, and it could be dozens of forms, amendments, documents, whatever it is. But it's a terrible experience, and it's stressful, and you're worried you're doing it wrong, or that they're looking for you to make a mistake to get you. So that $1 billion tax industry exists to create a better experience, a better on-ramp that's conversational, that you can just, go through. Hey, did you change jobs? Did you get married? Did you, put money into your retirement account? And when you're done, you'll see you have the confidence that you've done it right. You hit submit, and you as a consumer couldn't care less how it gets to the IRS. That's an output, the documents, the electronic submission. You had the experience you wanted. The information was validated before it ever went to an auditor, and the IRS gets the information they want. And so that type of an experience is what Daylight is helping insurers, banks, pharmacies, governments bring to any of the experiences that they have across their organizations, building the knowledge and that easy, intuitive way in front of whatever they have, whether it's a legacy paper document or system or a modern straight through API experience. That's what Daylight does.
Okay, so you could help both Insurtech with an API-driven experience or insurance companies with an AS400 that probably runs with lemmings inside and outputs paper stone tablets.
Yeah, like
Basically.
a real a tenet to when we founded the business was all of those things are outputs. That's how your business runs. That's how you move data across the organization. But just because that's how you operate doesn't mean that's how your employees, your customers want to operate. So when we built the platform, we kind of separated those ideas of let's build the experience we want today, regardless of whatever you have in the background. You know, it could be a hamster running in a wheel. You shouldn't have to wait for that to evolve before you can make improvements to that personal experience side of things. So that by separating those two, you can be modern on one end and still slowly progressing away from the stone tablets on the other side.
Okay, and it's supposed to be no code or low
It's
code.
yeah, and that's you know a topic I get I'm passionate about all the topics you'll learn as we keep going on. And the more I talk, the more passionate I get. End of day at that, I'll wear people down. But low code is the means that take to build those processes. So let me take it back a step. There's some organizations out there that are low code and they're trying to replace the idea of software development. So build any application, build a new core system, replace your policy engine or your claims engine with this no code, low code platform. That's not what Daylight is. The reason we are low code is because there's real guardrails in our platform that says I, as a business user, the person that is a customer service representative or the claims adjuster or whoever I am, I know my process better than anyone else can ever know it or could get the requirements down. So low code is there to enable them to actually build the majority of the solution themselves by just mapping out at this point. I need to get the name of the policy holder. Oh, you want to change a beneficiary? Who do you want to add? You know, they okay, you want to add more than one person? Here's the rules. You're in Texas or Quebec or wherever you are. Here's the additional rules for you. And then finally, here's the outcome. Once I get the information, here's the documents I put it in or the system I put it in. So the low code enables those types of people to build their own solutions rather than relying on the broken telephone game with IT of trying to convey their requirements, waiting for months, waiting for the prioritization. They can just come in and build it, and it shortens the distance between the problem and the solution. Like who knows what needs to get built and who can build it become one and the same.
I always like to look at the website of the company as we're chatting.
Sure.
And so in your case, the solutions tab has by use case, by function, and you have by industry. And in industry, you have banking, insurance, and healthcare. So of course, I clicked on insurance, which is my pond. And the first thing is make insurance processes more human.
Yes.
That is fantastic because one thing that we suffer of is we historically have built a product centric design,
Yeah.
and then the final customer, whether they're internal to the company or external, goes like, the heck is this, right?
What is
I
this? Yeah.
exactly. I don't need other than collision coverage, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what even is a collision? Like I just need
What yeah, what does that even mean? Whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
and in so many ways in insurance, we just speak our own lingo. We ask a gazillion questions, and many of them are important for underwriting. Many of them are not. That's the funniest thing. We ask questions that we don't require in underwriting just because we
Oh,
can,
that
right?
drives me crazy.
And
That
the
that
worst, the worst, right? So there's been a lot of insurtechs in the first generation of insurtechs. A lot of them were basically saying we can quote without asking you all the questions. We can quote like, give me a name and an address, and
Mhm.
we can get you a homeowner's insurance, or give me a license plate number and a license number and a name, and I can give you auto quote. But they would only basically they would get you the cheapest product possible,
Yeah.
and like it's not a very human process. And I believe that part of the reason the agents are continue to be successful and will probably continue to be successful forever, the agents, the brokers, is because they provide that human piece,
Yeah,
right? So
I couldn't agree more. You're gonna make me do. I haven't done this for a while, but it's when we started the business, as a founder, it was two of us at the time, and I used to get to do a lot of pitches. And my pitch back then, I probably haven't said it verbatim like this for a while, but my pitch from the day that I started pitching to, and it didn't matter if it was insurance or banking or anyone else, oftentimes I would tell the story of a broker. And I would say, there is a time, and there still is a time, where paperwork can be part of a good customer experience because, paperwork's got a terrible connotation with it. Everyone's trying to get rid of it. And I would talk about the broker that came to my house and sold me insurance when my wife was pregnant. So they came to my house. We had a conversation. I didn't have to fill out or check a box that said we're having a baby. He looked at my wife and said, "Oh, congratulations. You got it right, thankfully. But congratulations. I see you got a child on the way. And we were chatting before. You're thinking of starting a business." And what he was doing was understanding what was motivating us, what our needs were, what our budget was. And he was mentally deciding, oh, I think the right carrier for you is going to be this one and this product. He was filling the individual forms to get the quote or to bind the policy while we were there. And when he was done, he just turned the piece of paper around and said, here's what I've written down for you. Here's what I've answered. Here's what this means. Here's what collision, insurance means, using your story from before. And so the paperwork is a great part of the experience because it captured everything that was needed. It's just that he didn't just stick those in front of us, say, here's 100 forms, fill them out, and I'll tell you what the cost is. And so we tell that story because that same thing repeats not just in the creation of a policy, but you think about what happens in claims. You think about what happens when you're calling a call center wondering if you're covered for travel insurance or trying to understand where to go for a checkup or for a medical procedure when you're traveling. You think about what happens when you are an employee that joins one of those insurers and you're just trying to get on your own group plan. All the paperwork, all the documentation, or the systems that were built just around, this is what we need. So too bad for you, sit down and just answer every question. And you can make them all more human. You can recreate that broker experience in just about every process that is natural, engaged, de-stressed, and provides better data ultimately to the organization and a better experience to the customer. So I'm
okay.
passionate about it, and you were spot on with
So
that human side.
so who is the client at a carrier? Is it the CIO? Is it the chief of underwriter? Is it like the business unit chief
It's
or
it's we're not at the point where I can tell you definitively because it changes. So there's two primary users, broadly speaking. Now where they apply it changes. So there is either we'll just broadly call them IT groups. It could be a shared service group, a transformation group, whoever, who are genuinely looking to deliver more projects to the business units across the organization. And they're struggling to say, well, I have my core people and I want them working on big, difficult, transformative things, but they keep getting pulled off to work on a change of address experience for the retail banking, or this, an account move for a wealth team, or whatever it may be. And so they use the Daylight platform as a central way to either let more of their junior people rapidly build solutions, the front end of the solutions they're trying to build. And most of those problems don't require an upgrade to Guidewire or a massive update to that AS400. They just need a better way to interact with it. I want to take the rules that I know and put them in there. So IT uses us as a way to speed delivery. And then business teams use us because they're looking at business problems like, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money training new CSRs, and I wish I had a way to just codify the rules of these processes so it walked them through what to say, what to do. Or they're looking to extend their portals or their group benefits, or be competitive against other group players by saying, hey, your members will be able to do everything digitally, but they need to build out all of those touch points because they've only got the origination, or like the sign up, or the two or three big processes digitized. So we go both. What tends to happen is wherever we start, once the momentum starts building, it tends to get centralized with like a center of excellence, a shared services group, where IT will ultimately own the platform. But then business units get onboarded as needed, with their SMEs being able to build the solutions themselves. So it's kind of that's where we end up living at the end state, but it's the entry point varies.
What does the integration look like? So right, the CIO or the owner of a particular process brings you on, and they're sitting on,
Yeah.
applications, systems that are not API enabled,
Yeah.
that are not
Well,
API ready. How do you integrate?
this is one of my favorite topics, and you can tell already I'm going to weave it around, but I will get to your point. So when we started, our first client actually was a large bank that has an insurance component as well, and we won that when we were two people, up against some of the biggest names, biggest software companies, names out there in the world, household names, which is shocking to everybody. And one of the reasons is this real pragmatic approach that we have towards digitalization. So when you talk about integration, the way that we have built our platform is by separating those concerns and saying, as someone that has come out of project delivery and IT and security and all the areas that my partner and I came out of, we recognized where projects die. And integration is a huge area where projects go to die, right? Like, I know what I want to build, but it's going to take X amount of years to get permission or to build the new API or do something. So with Daylight, integration is there, and I will get to that. But what we really did was we said, first and foremost, let's build the experience that you want. What are the rules? What's the flow of the experience you want? And build it non-integrated. Once you have that, you theoretically could just, as a business team, could use it today. Yeah, it doesn't have Tony's information when he logs on to start his claim, and it doesn't have an API to send it on to the core system when he's done. So maybe on day one of launch, Tony's going to love it because it's still easy to use. It's accurate. And maybe on day one is generating the 3 paper forms that you still have to print and sign and, email back. But it's still bringing value. And then the integration all become additive. So if there's an API that eventually becomes available, you don't have to rebuild the solution. You simply have to reconfigure that experience to say, instead of generating documents, now we're going to, maybe first step might be, we're going to email the documents to a document storage solution. A few months later, maybe there is an API. So now we're just going to configure it to say, we've collected all of Tony's information digitally. Now we're just going to post it to an API. Same goes for pre-population. That same experience, you don't have to change it. You can just have, IT might say, we have a way now to launch these experiences. It'll pass first name Tony, policy number equals this. And the experience will just pick that up and work as if that information was tightly integrated. So you can, the real premise there is that when people wait for the end-to-end everything solution, things don't happen. It takes huge delays to see value. You now have to justify, because you're going to have to build end-to-end, the expectations of return are so much higher. So you only go over the ones that are going to be massive wins. Where with Daylight, you can say, well, this is a small problem. I'm going to build this and I'll get 70% of the value. I will then decide later, do I want to invest in the extra integration? And then, when you get into the meat of our platform, all of those integrations can be centralized too. So they're managed by IT, exposed to the business. So you're not building these ad hoc things that are going to, trouble the carrier 3 years from now. They're all done in a way that is scalable, but you're not dependent upon them to see value, to improve the knowledge of your frontline staff, to improve your digital offerings. You deal with the realities of whatever you have. And we used to call it pragmatic digitization. We all got to accept this is what our organization is like. That doesn't mean I can't make an improvement today and make an impact today.
So what you're saying is that when we search the intranet and we find 20,000 completely disconnected Access databases, that's a bad thing.
That is a bad thing.
Real story.
Yeah. Well, or 20,000 paper forms that are, where 70 of them are the same process, just a different team has a slight different version of it, and there's outdated versions that have been sent out to different organizations or carriers or partners over the years. Like, it doesn't have to be that way, and or the experience doesn't have to be that anyway. You might need to keep that because you can't, it's too big of a job, but doesn't mean that you have to, that's what you hire someone new and say, hey, by the way, welcome aboard to this wonderful employer. I'm going to have to teach you how to use these 10,000 access databases and 9,000 forms. See how long the retention, how long you're going to retain them if that's the experience that they're having.
Absolutely. What is the pricing like? Do we have to sign up for the whole thing and sign a 5-year contract, or what does the pricing look like?
So yeah, I'm going to give you a good answer here too, but I'm smirking because as a founder, one of the things that happens over the years of growing the business is the sales team starts saying, "Stop talking about pricing," because we're used to being very flexible as you start a business, and then it changes. But and I'm teasing them when I say that, but no, pricing was really important when we started the business. Again, story time. My partner, our CEO, we were childhood friends who drifted apart and then reconnected at a trade show and became executive sponsors of a deal between our respective organizations about 6-7 years ago. And he used to call me up and complain about pricing to me. So when we started this together, pricing became a really big thing. So the way that we built Daylight's pricing, and it's not about the dollar amount, but it's about the core principles of our pricing. So number one, we wanted it to be transaction based. And the reason for that is there are times where we have someone using us to build a COVID vaccination solution nationally, which is a true story. And they're going to be doing millions of submissions as people are signing themselves and their families up. Then we're going to have times where someone is doing a store audit or a very small process that your CEO really cares about, is only done 200 times a year. And if you're paying per project pricing, that doesn't make sense. How do you reconcile the use on such grand scale? So by being transactional, it does a few things. Number one, it means you can experiment and build things big or small, and you kind of know that what the cost is going to be. It's going to be a fraction of the value that you get from that amount of usage, right? So, and then it also keeps Daylight and our clients aligned to the same goal, because our clients, we get paid when they take things into production and are using it. So every time someone submits, every time they're adding a beneficiary or applying for a new product, whatever it is they're doing, that's when we generate revenue, and that's when our clients generate savings or revenue or whatever it may be. So it means we have the same goal. And if something's not working, we're there with them, just as eager to make it to make it work. If they need a kick in the pants to go faster, we're there encouraging them to be agile, because we have the same goal. Let's actually get things live. Let's not make a capital investment that we will hopefully pay off 5 years from now. Let's do things that we will all see return on, tomorrow. So that's how pricing works. And as a general rule of thumb, you're talking about, anywhere from 1/10 to 100th, whatever, of the value that the organizations are getting back. So you're talking about a small amount, a small cost per transaction versus the savings or the revenue that it's generating.
Fantastic. So your customer success people, priority 1, get things to production. Priority 2, get things to production. Priority 3, get things to production.
Yeah, well, the only thing I'd weave in between there is cross-pollinate ideas, because to get more things into production, it's about learning. Just the reason you went and you saw by industry and you saw pharmacy, banking, insurance, not a point solution. We're not here saying, hey, we have the best quoting engine. We're here saying that experiences are universal. The things we built in the platform around COVID for pharmacies is hugely applicable to what we're doing in banking, and what we're doing in banking is hugely applicable to what we're doing in insurance, because at the end of the day, people are I want to start something at home, then I hit a roadblock, I'd like to call someone and I'd like them to know what I'm doing, like to do it on my phone and do it on my computer. They're the same problem set, which is I don't want to feel like I'm taking a test to interact with your business, and so that's the other side of what our customer success people are doing, is just sharing ideas of, hey, here's a cool way that someone solved a problem for their call center in insurance. And I think that would be really applicable to you, the government entity that's trying to work on citizen reporting. You know, it's a huge part of what we do as well.
Makes sense. Makes perfect. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, an absolutely great way to put it. Art, it's been really good, really, really good. I'm often a little iffy about conversations with technology companies that serve multiple industries. But no, this has been really good. It's been a real pleasure to have you. When this goes live, I will tag you on LinkedIn. I will tag Daylight on LinkedIn also.
Amazing.
And yeah, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure being here. And Tony, I know we talked before we started. I was at a conference, an insurance conference here in Toronto a few weeks back. If I would have known, would have found a way to get you in there. But I'll be keeping my eye out for other
Awesome.
events, and
Thank
we'll
you.
get you up here sometime soon.
Thank you. Preferably in spring.
Yeah. No, I know the general rules. Unless you say you're a skier or a snowboarder, spring or summer is the time to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.